welcome everybody. Let's talk real estate, your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current commercial real estate market here in Southern California. As we take a no BS look at both sides of the issues driving this market today to find the best solutions going forward. With our man right in the middle, Barry Saywitz. Hey, Barry.
Hey, good morning, Paul, and good morning to all of our viewers and our listeners out there. We're back again. It is Tuesday morning, and I'm Barry Saywitz, president of the Saywitz Company, and we are here to talk some more real estate. I do want to do a shout out to all of the maintenance guys who work for me who are running around fixing all the leaks in the windows, especially at my house. I hope it's taken care of sooner rather than later, but we are here in Southern California. Unfortunately, today is not a sunny day. We are in the middle of an atmospheric river. I don't even know what that means other than there's a lot of water. But I am excited about today's show. I'm always excited to talk about apartments and multifamily housing, so I want to welcome our guest, Laura Khouri, president of Western National Property Management Company here based in Irvine in Orange County. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Barry. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, and thanks for braving the weather, and we'll stay in here where it's dry as long as we can. So you've been a long-time resident of Orange County and long time in the multifamily business. We're going to talk apartments. We're going to talk housing. We'll make up some other stuff as we go. But you've seen obviously a lot of growth in Orange County from the time that you were here and watched things get developed, not only on the housing side, but on the multifamily side as well. And you've been with Western National for how many years now?
Going on 39.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so I guess first I would ask, how did you get into real estate in the first place?
I answered a 3-line ad in the Orange County Register for Gal Friday.
Really?
Yes.
And it said actually Gal, like you could
Gal
get away
Friday.
with that then.
Yes, back in '85 you could do that.
And you only had to work on Fridays.
I only had to work on Fridays, right? And it's funny because you don't have that now. What man would apply for Gal Friday?
Right.
But it was just a fancy name for gopher or file clerk, and I was hired 20 minutes into the interview, and that started my career.
And so then you hung around, obviously.
I did. I hung around. It took me about 18 months to figure it out that, wow, if I stayed a little late and maybe came in a little earlier, I might get a raise. I might get someone to notice me.
And in Southern California, that's like a big deal. Like I came from the Midwest, and I didn't leave at 5 o'clock, but it was a ghost town. I mean, nobody worked late. Everybody went to surf or to the beach or
Absolutely.
the bar or whatever.
Yeah. 4:55, you're like, okay, 5 o'clock, where's happy hour? Where are we going? Right. And you would just leave the office. There were no, time clocks or anything like that. You came and went as you wanted to.
Yeah, those were the days.
Yes.
And so this is mid-'80s?
Mid-'80s, 85.
So the market's booming here. Everything's good. It's the 80s.
Yes.
There's buildings going up. There's apartments going up. There's housing, right? The airport's growing. All is good.
Yes.
Until the end of the 80s, and the whole economy takes a tank. That's when I got started. I think I started in October of 1989 in real estate, and then the market crashed in November of 1989, about 2 weeks in.
Yes.
And so, how, if you remember, how did that change just the dynamic of what your company was dealing with?
So when I started in 85, we were building a signature series of about 2,000 units, right? All looking the same, all in Orange County, South County, that sort of a thing. I actually bought my first home in 1989. In September, closed in September.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what happened there. And it was in Riverside because that's all you could afford. You couldn't afford Orange County here.
Even then?
Even then. And I remember at that point we stopped building. We just stopped. We made that decision. Probably one of the better decisions we've made.
Yeah, as did everybody else, just to
Yes.
sort of wait and see. And then it was stay alive till 95, right, which was like way
Yes.
out, right? Like I can't even count how far out that is. And technology at that point was pretty limited.
It was limited. In fact, the only staff that had these huge Apple IICs that they would bring in to the office, right?
Yeah,
we didn't have anything.
The green letters.
The
right?
green, right. I had a word processor called the Burroughs Redactron, and it had a printer that was encased in this huge cover so that you couldn't hear it. It was so loud.
Right.
But that was the extent of technology in the late 80s. Yes.
Yeah, I remember I started and I needed to find office space for somebody, and I asked the other guys in the office, how do I go about finding it? There was no MLS, there was no database. And they said, they pointed to the corner and there was a giant stack of papers. And then they said, yeah, just look through those. And I'm like, how long they've been there? And they're like, I don't know. And so that was, that was your technology. But
Yes.
So those were tough times, but then the economy grows, the housing market comes back, and then all of a sudden it starts to shoot back up. And so from Western National's perspective, you continue to move up the ranks, I take it.
I did.
Get your own Girl Friday.
I did, yes.
And then the company itself was building and buying and managing all at the same time?
Absolutely. In 1987, we actually took over the Irvine Company properties, and so we joint ventured with them. And it was wonderful working with them. Absolutely, we actually created their management company for them originally, but yes, we're a third party manager in addition to our own, and it was a great time coming out of that early 90s.
And the Irvine, I remember that the Irvine Company was like outsourcing.
They were. They had three of us.
That was a phase, right?
It was a phase. Yes.
And then they changed their mind.
Yeah.
Took it back. Said, no. And the company itself started in Orange County. But then you started to spread into other areas as, I guess, the contacts and needs arose. Right?
Yeah, we did. So we actually started in 1958, so 65 years ago.
Which there couldn't have been much here then.
No, there wasn't, but there was this place called Disneyland that was 3 years old, right? And our founder, a fellow by the name of Mr. Douglas, said, you know what? I wonder where all of those employees are going to live. Let's build an apartment complex. And that's exactly what he did. He had retired from B.F. Goodrich, got together his friends that he worked with on the tire line, and they went out there. They got a construction company. They were the first landscapers of our building, and that's how our company was formed.
That's an interesting story.
Back in 1958.
And as Disneyland rose and as Orange County grew, so did Western National.
So did Western National. Yeah, we were known as IPS at the time, Income Property Services, but Doug just kept doing this. It was a format that worked for everyone. And we expanded in the Empire probably in the early 90s, San Diego, Ventura County, LA. That all took a lot to growth.
And really at the right place at the right time, because as all of these areas began to really grow dramatically, you were there to help with the process.
Yes.
And so today, you guys manage and own your own portfolio. How many properties or units, and then what's the percentage of owned versus managing for somebody else?
So Western National Group is a full-service real estate company. So there's a development company in there, there's a landscaping company, and there's a construction company, and then there's my company, which is the management company. Management company has approximately 23,000 units under management right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you about 12,000 of those are owned, and they're owned in about 90 separate limited partnerships. The remainder of the communities are third party. So I manage for outside owners, people who have small portfolios or one-off buildings or are just looking for a professional management company.
And then you must have an accounting firm as well to take care of all of the accounting for all these partnerships.
Actually, we have an in-house accounting department.
I'll bet.
But yes, we do have an accounting firm that does all of our tax returns and K-1s and all of that every year.
And so then from a going forward standpoint, is the business plan for the at least the management company that you're spearheading, is it to continue to grow the portfolio? Is there any more opportunity out there?
It is, and it comes from two different ways. For one is grow the third-party business. The second one is that if our internal company, our development company, wants to develop properties, then we will ultimately manage those once they're constructed. But yes, there's a big push to increase our third-party management out there.
And are there specific markets that you're interested in, or is it really all over?
You know, one of the things that really works for us is because we are centrally located here in Orange County, is that with that you've got depth and breadth, and we love taking over properties that are very close to properties we currently have because you've got the resources there. If something goes awry, there's always a person there to help you.
Yeah. So, but LA, San Diego, and then Empire, and then is there a desire to go out of state and other places?
Well, we are currently in Nevada. In 2010, we went and took over a portfolio of 7 properties, and if you remember what life was like in 2010, right?
Yeah,
and
it was not good.
Yes, it was not good.
I want to forget it.
Not good. And these properties were really distressed. The truth is we worked ourselves out of a management because we turned them around, we made them cash flow, and the ownership sold them, and we're left with one now. We have one property there.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, but Vegas is a great market.
Right. It was horrible in 2010.
Yes, it was.
But it is great now. And so, will you look at other opportunities in whether it's Arizona or Nevada or Texas, or is really just stick close to home?
Right now, stick close to home and Las Vegas, Nevada. We just love that area.
And do you foresee, I guess, the sort of forays into my question about where are things going in terms of the economy? Because for the last several years, certainly during COVID and then now coming out of COVID, rents have gone up, property values have gone up, and now there's sort of this unknown with the high interest rates and wondering what happens with the economy. I feel like there's change coming, and as some people experience some pain with their interest rates rolling or with increased operating costs, that they're going to look to professionals to really take over, and that the people who are doing it themselves go, this isn't that much fun anymore, and I really need some help.
You're absolutely right. Ownership it depends on what their goals are, but they're mostly driven by cash flow, NOI, what are distributions, and they also look for asset preservation, right? It's funny when you think about where we were prior to the pandemic. We're just rolling along, 3% and 4% increases, doing fine, right? And then the legislature votes in rent control, January 1st, 2020, right? At the same time, we have this massive pandemic. So for 2 years, we had no rent growth at all. We didn't increase our rents. Actually, when the governor shut the state down, we offered our residents, if they could pay their rent on the 1st, that they would get a 5% discount.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know what to expect on April 1st. No one did, right?
Right.
And the truth is that we continued that for 3 months. And I had every outside owner agree to do that in addition to the owned properties. We gave away $7 million in 3 months' time.
Did it work?
It worked. And it created a lot of great social media presence, which that was not my objective. It was to make sure that I could cash flow these buildings.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then after that, we realized where we were going with this, and we didn't raise rents for 2 years. And so we come out of it, right? Now we're in 2022, and rents are starting to increase, and they're leveling out from where they were, right? And here we are in 2023, 24. Now we're back to really where we were before. We're happy with 3 or 4% rent increase.
And it's interesting because you had inflation go up that period in that 8 to 9 ridiculous percent range.
Yes.
And you really had rents shoot up. And then you had property values shoot up, and you had operating expenses shoot up. So as a landlord, it's not so much, hey, I want to stick it to my tenant and I'm trying to raise the rent. That's not the case at all. I don't think. I'm curious your thoughts. But the point is it's cash flow, right? I want to keep the property full, and I want to keep it good, and I want to keep my good tenants and not have problems and drama. But at the same time, I've got runaway costs, whether that's insurance in today's world, whether that's trash, everything, and then landscaping and pools and everything else, all the labor goes up. So even doing a 3 or 4% increase, I'm curious, but that doesn't get it done for the owner at the end of the day. It's tough to keep up.
Not right now, right? Particularly with the insurance costs. We are anticipating, we're in a master package, we're anticipating 38% this year.
Yeah.
And we renew on March 1st. And that's because so many insurers have left California.
Correct.
It's very, very difficult,
Yeah, we've had properties on our side where the carrier just said, look, based on where the property is located or the age, or just we need some excuse to just tell you thank you but no thank you.
Yes.
And then you go out to bid and then nobody wants it.
Right.
And you're looking at, we had a couple instances where it was 200-300% because not only does the risk issue go up, you have events like today with atmospheric river and earthquake and fire and flood and all of that, but you also have the issue that the construction costs for replacement are so much higher with inflation in today's world that the carrier has to insure it at a higher number, which means the owner is just paying more at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, so you have the premium edition, and then you have that cost per square foot increase in value.
And it's just right to the bottom line.
Yes.
So I know it well. And so then you combine that. And so what do you say to owners from a general perspective in terms of what's the overall business plan? Do I stay full? I have to stomach it. Maybe it will, it should get better. Hopefully it will get better. There's not much else to do, right, other than sell.
Heck, you could do my job. Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what you do. The best thing you can do for ownership is just educate them, because the reason you're managing is because they either don't know how to or don't want to. And if you keep them informed and keep communicating with them, it's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, and we've had other folks in here, and I said, well, if it's so miserable, they ask me, why don't you just sell and, get out? And then the answer is, what would I do with the money? I would pay a lot of taxes. Where else can I get a return? I can't put it in the stock market. It's too volatile. And so, look, long term, if you're in it for the long term, then you'll be fine. But there are storms, and you have to weather them.
You have to weather them.
Yeah. And so from a perspective of the tenant side of things, as far as technology goes, so, we're well past the pile of paper in the corner these days. I'm assuming you guys have an online portal with all kinds of good stuff that you provide in terms of information to the tenants, as well as fancy ways to pay rent or get laundry credits or other things like that.
Yeah, just to maintain relevancy in the market, absolutely. I can't even tell you how many software programs we have in play right now.
Yeah.
There's so many. And it's funny, too, with the pandemic, we really had to communicate with residents where you would put a note on their door. You don't do that anymore, right?
Right.
You send them a text or an email, and you do that through certain...
Well, the note's last resort, right?
Right.
I can't reach other. Keep some tape handy.
Yes.
But but I have found that the communication between landlord and tenant, or manager, property manager and tenant, is much better for those who want to have access to it. You certainly have some tenants who choose not to, but for those who want to get information, your job as the property manager is to make sure they have it, right?
Yes, absolutely. They log into the portal, they put in their maintenance requests if they have any, they leave a message for the manager, assistant manager, facilities manager.
Right, and hopefully those days of the 2:00 knock on the door for the on-site, right?
Yes.
You try to anyway.
Yes.
And so, where do you see the technology side of things going? I think it's ever evolving, and I think that the ease of information will continue.
Yes, well, particularly with AI, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure we know where it's going at this point. My forte is people and property management. The technology side of when AI settles down and it gets to be much more reliable. Is something that we'll look at as well.
And in terms of the staff and just sort of the corporate culture, is it, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is it customer service? I mean, it seems like it has to be at the end of the day.
It absolutely has to be at the end of the day. For many years prior to the pandemic, we ranked #1 in the nation, actually close to 7 years, in mystery shopping. And what we would do, we would engage Ellis Mystery Shopping Services and compete on a national level against 72 other property management firms, and came out #1 7 years in a row.
Wow.
And the reason for that is that someone walks into the office and we literally stand up and shake their hand and say, "Hi, we're happy you're here. How can we help you?" We train that. I have an entire training department that trains how to lease an apartment, how to create that customer service level, how to make that contact.
Yeah, and a lot of times that's the difference between making a deal with somebody and not making a deal. Oh, I like the person who showed me around, or they were very friendly. It seems like a nice place to live, the people I met, right?
Yes. All the phone calls are recorded, so all of our associates know that this is kind of their test, right? Many, many years ago, we actually had a manager who said, "Well, do you want it or what?"
Yeah,
right? When it comes into the apartment.
Right, open the door. Here it is.
Here
What
it
do you
is.
think?
There, yeah. Those days are long gone. Now, having said that, there are many people who want to tour themselves. You don't establish that connection when that happens, but I get that that might be a generational issue as well.
Yeah, and probably a lingering effect of COVID also, right?
Yes.
I'll leave it open for you. Go see what you think and call me. And so, okay, so here we are, right? Where I call it the post-COVID.
Yes.
Like I feel like while COVID's still a thing, we're past all the implications of it, but we're on to new issues, right?
Yes.
So I want to talk rent control for a minute, because as a landlord, I say not a good thing. And I say I understand the desire to protect the tenant, and I understand the desire to protect the tenant's rent from getting run away and going up, but I also am a big fan of free market and allowing people to make a deal, and if they can't make a deal, they'll go someplace else and make a deal somewhere else.
Yes.
I'm curious what you hear in terms of feedback from your folks, and whether that really even becomes an issue, because the rent control in today's world is almost 9%. And if you're not charging 9%, then it really doesn't even come into play at the moment.
Right. I know that legislation tried to help with that in 2020. Here's the unfortunate part, is that the affordable side of our business, so I've got a portfolio of roughly 3,000 units that are affordable buildings. When the inflation numbers came out in 2021, right, they were 12%.
Yeah.
We did not put those increases through, and ownership of the buildings agreed with us not to do that. But how fair was that, right?
Yeah.
We can live with the current 1482. We can do that. The problem is that we're constantly battling, like the Weinstein Initiative that's coming in 2024, right?
Yeah.
To even lower rents even more, without the understanding of the inflation portion, like the insurance issue that we just discussed, right? And the cost of doing business. It's not as if we are running around, making money hand over fist. It's
Right.
not
Although
like
that's
that.
the perception, it's really not the case.
Oh, yeah, the big bad landlord. I
Right.
understand that, right? But it's always about the resident first, and in anything that we do.
Yeah, and in terms of making upgrades or improvements to the properties on an ongoing basis. I mean, you have that cost.
Yes.
Right? I need to make the property look good. Number one, I don't want deferred maintenance, but number two, if it looks nice, it will help stay full and keep my tenants happy.
Absolutely. Capital expenses and long-term preservation, are number one. So we don't make any more rent money when we re-roof a building, right? Or re-side it,
right? And the tenant doesn't pay for that.
They don't pay for that, and I don't know that they appreciate it unless it's a day like today, when it's, raining cats and dogs. But there's a lot of money that's being invested back into the building just to maintain.
Yeah. And then the problem is if your costs are going up, whatever the percentage is, it's certainly more than 3 or 4%.
Yes, it is.
And so then it's just right to the bottom line. No one, I think, really seems to understand that at the end of the day, not the tenant, nor the powers that be in terms of what they're doing. And so that makes it difficult, I think, on owners. And then now you have this new thing where you have individual cities that have come out and have said, hey, I don't even like that rent control. I want even more restrictive rent control. I'm not even sure why. There was a rent control in place. Why do you need another layer? But you have things like that, whether there's the new stuff in Costa Mesa or the rent control in Santa Ana or even the city of Long Beach, Los Angeles.
Yes, and I have properties in all of those areas, including Ventura County and Oxnard.
Yeah.
And it's like rent control whack-a-mole is what I call it.
Yeah.
Because you do have these individual cities that, they have the right idea, but I don't know that they have all the information they need before they start passing all of this regulation.
Yeah, and I think you'll start to see, especially as people struggle, and it may not be you or your owners, but I think the mom and pop guys who can't afford to keep up with the operating expenses and then can't afford the rent are really in a pinch.
Yeah, you said it right.
Yeah, and then it really disincentivizes, I think, that mom and pop owner from fixing up the building or the unit. Hey, I won't put new carpet in because I can't even raise your rent $10.
Right, exactly.
So I think those are the challenges, and I think there's other things coming. I'm curious your thoughts. We have a show coming up. I think it's next week, where we're talking about the new AB, and I forget the number, but with the balconies and the staircases.
That would be 721.
Okay, you got it better than me.
Yes, and actually your inspections need to be completed by year end.
Yes.
So,
that one I know.
We started that 5 years ago.
Really?
Yes. And it's intrusive because it's destructive testing, right? So if you have an older building that's got asbestos and stucco, right, you've got to go through all kinds of maneuvers in order to get that testing done, and it's very, very expensive. We are almost completed with our entire portfolio.
It's a huge undertaking, and there are companies that specialize in just doing that. If you have your own construction company, then you're better than most, but no question it's unnecessary. Maybe it's necessary if there's deficiencies, but it's just an added cost, I think.
That is true. Now, our construction company builds apartments, so they don't do any of the work, any of the CapEx work. We have a project managers from the CapEx department, but our construction company builds actually majority of the product for the Irvine Company and for Lewis out in Inland Empire and Rancho Santa Margarita area, the Rancho Mr. Mario Company, and that's what they focus on. However, having said that, is we also engage third parties for SB 721 so that we're not self-dealing, so that we actually get an independent opinion as to what the building looks like on the inside.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then in terms of the development side, now I know that's not your thing, there's a different company, but is the development continuing with this basically, to me, for lack of a better word, the supply-demand curve sort of trumps the fact that the economy is struggling along. I mean, there is a need for housing, and so as long as there's a need, I think there'll be people that continue to build.
Yes, absolutely. We have 3 projects under development now, equaling close to 800 units.
And do you find that the leasing or the pre-leasing on those is still fairly vibrant?
Yes, we start pre-leasing between 3 and 6 months in advance. And you'll find that prospective renters, particularly ones who choose to live that way and want to rent, are excited for new product to come into the market.
And I'm assuming you do some fairly extensive studies on who your customer is,
Yes.
and it would depend on the demographic and the geographic location and all of that. But is there a theme or a trend that you've seen in terms of renters being younger folks versus people that are selling their home and then just don't want to go back in and buy a new one? Or is there a particular group that has, since COVID, I guess, been more the renter than they were before?
No, I would say not. They come in all ages and for all different reasons. If anything, I think more of our renter groups now are animals, right?
Yeah.
We have a ton of residents who have pets. And, given current California legislation, all they have to do is say,
Service animal.
Service animal, and they don't pay rent.
Right.
They don't pay rent.
Or deposit,
or any of that. And we get it, we understand, but we actually have seen more animals than anything else, believe it or not.
And it seems like in terms of the people that are renting, most of it is just either I don't want to own or I really just can't afford to own, right? And so then that's what it is. And that becomes, if you go back a generation, the whole desire and goal was home ownership,
It
right?
was.
I got to buy a home. And I think that's sort of out the window these days.
But there's a freedom in renting as well. To pack up and go wherever you want to.
Right.
If your job takes you there, or even, with remote workers, they can live wherever they want to.
That's true. And do you find that people with where they're living now would prefer to live closer to home than versus getting on the freeway and doing a big commute?
Yes.
And so that makes a difference, I guess, as well.
Yes, I read somewhere that our freeway system is about 25 years behind what our population is and the use of the vehicles. And so, you're always going to run into that, particularly in Orange County and LA County, right?
Yeah.
Even getting into Orange County from Riverside County.
Right. Well, you did it a while back.
Yes,
Probably
I did.
was a piece of cake then.
It was there. The express lane hadn't been invented yet, right?
I remember those
but I do remember leaving the house at 5:30 in the morning so I could get to the office early.
And no one was on the road. But
No,
today, if you leave
yes.
at 5:30 in the morning, it's still a parking lot.
It is. Yes. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know that drive.
Yeah.
So where do you see, I guess let's talk at least for the next 12 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you must have a 2024 game plan in terms of the business. What is the short-term goal in terms of just dealing with all of the things that are on your plate for the company?
Typically, our short-term goal is... Actually, it's twofold. So we've got minimizing expenses because we're not increasing our rents. The market's not calling for it. If we see 3 or 4% this coming year, that's good, but that's not going to take the place of what we're seeing on the expense side and the inflationary numbers, right? Secondarily, one of the major initiatives that the company has is that we went into partnership with the Anaheim Ducks organization, the hockey team, and created ducksliving.com. And so our owned properties have their own website with the Ducks. And so if you go to a game and you see Ducks Living, you'll see us there.
All right, I'll keep an eye on it.
And so that's been a major focus to make that work. It's a 3-year commitment with the Ducks. We've enjoyed it so far. It's been so much fun. They've created commercials for us, and we absolutely love the entire team.
Oh, it's a neat concept.
Yeah, it is. It is. So that's been a very big focus to make that one work.
And I'm assuming stay full, keep your tenants happy, right?
Yeah,
Try and cut costs.
Typical, yes. Although it depends on what ownership wants. Sometimes I have owners that want to be 100% full, and I don't recommend that because it means you're not either raising the rents or doing it right? We like 95.5. So if we're 95% occupied and have 5% availability, then we're comfortable with that and know how to accommodate the rents from that point.
And what have you seen now in this sort of post-COVID era in terms of defaults or people falling down? Has it slowed down? Are we past it, or is there still a certain percentage of people that I think always will struggle? I mean, there's always somebody who can't pay the rent. There is.
During the pandemic, we had approximately $42 million of unpaid rent, portfolio-wide.
But probably not a lot of vacancy.
Not a lot of vacancy.
Because nobody want to move.
No, but now we're carrying them. Right. Through the governmental assistance, we gained about $22 million back.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they made it so difficult that we go in and fill out an application, and if our resident doesn't go in, then we never see any of that rent money.
True.
There were flaws in the system. So we've taken that $20 million and basically just written it off and started fresh. Now, do we see defaults? Yeah, not so much anymore, but yeah, there are a couple. We're back to pre-pandemic times.
Yeah, and I find that the eviction process, well, that is not a fun one for landlord or tenant, and really everybody loses in that process.
Yes.
But that process, while it was non-existent during COVID or took 6 or 9 or 12 months shortly after COVID, I find that process is now back to a 75 to 90-day process if you're lucky. And if you're not so lucky, it's not that much more than that. But it's back to more of a normalized sort of a setup.
Yeah, unlucky would be about 6 months.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so then it also, hopefully it puts perspective for everyone to understand that, hey, I don't get to live here for free for 3 years again.
Yes.
And I have to figure something out one way or the other.
Yes.
But I think that's always a challenge. But at the same time, when the market is tight, which it really is, and so if you're a tenant, I feel bad when people say, hey, I need something bigger, I need something smaller. And then we say, I'm sorry, I don't have anything. I can't accommodate you. You probably do. I should have them call you. But then they have to go out and look, and it's tough to find, what you want at a price that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think Orange County as a place to live will continue to be attractive, even though it's expensive. I'm curious your thoughts as to where you see the economy as a whole leading up to the election. It's still going to be the same sort of dynamics. I mean, Orange County is a little bit of a bubble anyway.
It is its own little bubble, isn't it? Yes.
We'd like to think so, at least the people who live here. Right?
I don't see a lot changing between now and the election. People like just to sit back and wait and see.
Yeah.
They like that play. I think, if anything, people are looking forward to getting back to normal, whatever that new normal is. For us, it's like, okay, let's control our expenses because we can't control labor, cost of construction, and insurance, right? So what can we do? Right?
And on the labor side, I want to ask you quickly, since I know we're running out of time, but the idea of people coming back to work, where are you today in that process, and is it segregated based on departments? And some people have to come to work.
Yes, they do. So I think it was March 19th that the governor declared, shelter in place. And we have a communication tree at the office where I go to my VP and his 4 RVPs, and then it dribbles down to 600 people, right? Listen, we're an essential business, report to work tomorrow, right? And we did. I only had one facilities manager said, can I work from home? I don't think so, right? And we worked the entire time. Right, because we had to. Now, we made some changes. Maybe the office might have been locked, or we'd put up these barriers in between us, but we were there the entire time. Support departments in the management company, like accounts payable and HR and training and all that, they could be remote.
Right.
We started bringing them back in 2022, right? We have very few remote workers left at this point. People actually moved out of the way, out of the area.
Right, and as a business owner or somebody who's running the business, you want the synergy of having people interacting with other people. I mean, I think that just feeds for the corporate culture and gets stuff done quicker.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of mentoring that goes on too. It's hard to recommend someone for promotion if you never see them other than on a Zoom where they look good from here up, right?
Right.
And there's something to be said about that interaction. You mentioned the culture, getting people to be the better version of themselves in front of others. And you can only do that when you're together.
Yeah. And you're the living version of promoting from within, having started as the Gal Friday and now running the whole shebang.
Yes.
And so I'm assuming that's also something that's important within your own organization, is continue to promote from within, and then try and hire good people starting fresh that'll do the same thing.
Absolutely. There's something to be said about bringing in fresh blood every once in a while, but the truth is I am an example of that. I mentioned before, we've got this huge training and marketing department, right, where we literally will train you for every skill you need in order to keep you with us. Now, some people take that training and they go off and they have good careers at other companies, and that's okay. But I believe in karma, and it comes back to you in some other way, right? I think that for us, particularly during the pandemic, the connection, because people were so remote, I started sending an email in, I think it was March 18th. It was my first one. And 587 days later, I stopped. There was a daily email to 1,000 people talking either about the pandemic or new eviction laws or prevention, or they even turned into memes toward the end. Looking forward to walking down this aisle, and the aisle was a picture of an empty Disneyland, right? That kind of a thing. And that's how we kept that connection together during all that time, and that people felt that they really were wanted, and we needed them to be there, right?
And now going forward, it's we're back, so to speak, and we get stuff to do
in person, right? So nothing really replaces in person, but when you can maintain that connection, you do it at any cost.
Good. Well, look, I told you to go quick, and it always does.
Wow,
and
it did.
Paul's waving at me like, hey, he wants to take a break or something. How can people find out more information about the company? What's the website?
A couple of ways. WNG.com or WNPMapartments.com, and, well, one more, ducksliving.com.
Great. And so I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and talking about the company. And I wish you and your family and the business much continued success. And stay dry out there along with everybody else. But I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. So great spending the time with you, Barry. Thank you.
Good. So I'm Barry Saywitz, if you didn't remember. We are back here again next week. We will talk more real estate. We appreciate you for tuning in. Thanks again to everybody here at OC Talk Radio for making the show happen. And we'll see you next time on Let's Talk Real Estate.
Well, there you have it. You've been listening to Let's Talk Real Estate, your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current state of the real commercial real estate market right here in Southern California. On Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studio here at the University of California Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.